Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Chantel and today's video is going to be about my journey as a surrogate mother from start until now. So I'm going to be talking about the application process and all of the steps that I had to take to become a gestational surrogate mother. So if you're interested, then keep on watching. Before we get started, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and leave any comments you have down below. All right, so let's get started. So for me, I applied in October of 2023. So last October, it was at the beginning of October, October 5th, I believe. And I had just signed up to get like more information about the agency. And then someone had reached out to me. She explained the whole process and how everything would go, just kind of overall. And then from there, she sent me a formal application that I then filled out, sent it back to her, and from there we just got the ball rolling. So they looked over my application and everything looked good overall for the most part. So then they asked me for my medical records, and these were just my pregnancy medical records. They didn't want to see everything. They just wanted to see the records from my 2 pregnancies that I had with my children. So I had my medical records released. Everything looked fine. From there, they had me set up with a psychologist and a social worker. So the psychologist was to make sure that mentally I was capable of carrying a child for someone else and then giving that child to those parents. And, you know, there weren't going to be any problems, or I wasn't going to have any issues, or, you know, just no issues overall with that. So I met with the psychologist. It was actually a phone call. We just talked on the phone. So I never really met her in person, but we had a phone conversation and it went really well. She asked me a bunch of questions, a bunch of the same questions that I kind of already had been asked before. And, you know, she just basically told me that I was a great candidate. And so she just basically told me that I was a great candidate and that she wasn't worried about me, and I was such a personable person and she really enjoyed talking to me. So that box was checked off. I was cleared by the psychologist. Next, I had a video phone call with a social worker. The social worker phone call was to make sure that I was in an environment that was healthy and where I could carry a child in a healthy space, and, you know, I wasn't going to be stressed out. I wasn't going to be worrying about things and struggling to do things, or you're not having help with my own children. And so she wanted to see my whole house. So I had to go around the whole house, upstairs, downstairs, outside, everything, and show her my living arrangement. And she asked a lot of questions about my family, who lived with me, who was my support system, who was going to be here to look after my children when I go to doctor's appointments and things. So that was a very thorough phone conversation with her, but that went well as well. She cleared me as well to go ahead and proceed with the surrogacy. So those 2 things were very important, because if I wouldn't have got cleared from them, I probably wouldn't have been able to move forward in the process. So if you're interested in becoming a surrogate, just keep that in mind, that they will do a mental check as well as a life check, like a well-being check for you as well. So those 2 meetings happened in November last year. After that, around December 9th, that's when I met the intended parents. So what happens is the agency will create a profile for you where they ask you to send them pictures of you and your children or your family, and they'll put those pictures in the profile so that the intended parents can see what you look like and, you know, see the person kind of before they meet you that they possibly want to go with to be their surrogate. So I sent her pictures of me and my children. She had all of the questions that I had to answer for the application, all of that in my profile. So they basically could kind of get to know you before they met you. So what happened was, the lady from the agency, my coordinator, she had reached out to me and told me that she had an intended parents who wanted to meet with me and see if we would be a good match. So we met on Zoom and everything went well. It was basically like an interview almost. I just kept getting asked the same questions kind of over and over. Just in the beginning part of the process, everyone wants to know, you know, why do you want to be a surrogate? You know, what made you want to do this, and all kind of stuff like that. So they asked me those questions. I answered them the same as what I had put on my application. So it was fine. You know, it was super easy. I wasn't nervous or anything. She told me that I did great. After that Zoom call, the intended parents and myself both had 24 hours to say yes or no, whether we wanted to match with each other or not. So as a surrogate, I also have the right to decide if I want to be a surrogate for this particular family. It's not just the family picks me and then I have to go with them. So we both had that option, and we both agreed, yes, you know, this will be a good fit. We were ready to go. So that happened in December. And it seems like, you know, the ball is just rolling. Everything's going fast and smooth. There's no hiccups or anything. So I'm excited. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be pregnant real soon. So after I met with the parents and we both agreed to move forward with each other, this is where I had to get medically cleared now. So like I said, I met with the parents on December 9th. We agreed. Now we're waiting for my menstrual cycle to come so that I can go to the fertility clinic and they can do labs and check my hormone levels and all of that stuff and make sure I'm physically healthy to carry a baby. So this is where the journey kind of took a pause for me, because my period was 3 weeks delayed and I was not understanding why. It was supposed to come, I believe, at the beginning of January of this year, and it didn't come for 3 weeks. And so I was going to the doctor. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why am I not getting my period? I need my period so that I can go to the fertility clinic and get medically cleared. So what happened was, my family does the Daniel fast every year at the beginning of the year. I typically don't do it every year, but this year my mom really wanted all of her children to do it with her. So I did the Daniel fast, and if you know anything about the Daniel fast, you're starving. Literally starving, like the whole 3 weeks. So I'm kind of a picky eater, so all of the things that we can eat during the Daniel fast, I don't want to eat that. It's flavorless, it's nasty, it's not filling, you know, it's not a vibe. So I was so hungry all the time. I was losing weight like crazy. I was so weak. And the doctor basically told me that my body was adjusting to that. So obviously during your menstrual cycle, you're losing blood. It wouldn't have been smart, you know, for me to not be getting the nutrients and everything that I need, the calories that I need daily, and to be shedding blood at the same time. So my body reacted to that, and so my menstrual cycle was delayed for 3 weeks, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So it finally came on January 21st, thank God. So then I was able to go ahead and go to the doctor. So they wanted me to be within my 1st and 11th day of my cycle, so I didn't have to actually be actively on my period, but it needed to be within a certain cycle day. So I ended up going to the fertility clinic on January 31st. That was the soonest I could go once after I got my menstrual cycle. And that appointment is where they drew blood to do labs. They wanted to check my hormone levels. They did a vaginal ultrasound to check my uterus. They wanted to make sure there were no cysts or any issues, anything in there that should not have been. And overall, everything was fine. My uterus was fine. The ultrasound came back fine. My blood work did show that she said I needed more vitamin D, so I had to start taking vitamin D pills. And then also she wanted me to see a specialist to rule out any liver problems. You know, me, every time I go to the doctor, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm always healthy. My vitals are always A1. So I was like, you know, girl, come on. Like, what's the problem? So anyway, I had to meet with my primary doctor first so he could clear me and send a referral for me to meet with the specialist about my liver. So I ended up having to do an ultrasound on my liver and you know, talk to a specialist. I talked to her over the phone. She asked me a bunch of questions and I had to do more labs. It it was honestly a little annoying because I'm thinking I'm healthy. My doctor even said like overall I was healthy, and what the fertility doctor had seen, you know, he wasn't seeing any cause for concern. But I understood that this is a very serious thing that's happening. You know, I want to be a surrogate. I want to carry a baby. I want to bring life into this world for someone else. So they want to make sure that I'm at my healthiest so that nothing happens to me, and so that I'm able to carry this baby and carry the baby to full term, you know. So I understood all of that. So I just went ahead and did what I needed to do. And y'all, I did not get cleared, medically cleared, until April 19th. Okay. So from January 31st to April 19th, it was just like a waiting game, and all this blood work and all these appointments and things to get medically cleared. Thank God I finally got medically cleared. Then after that, that's when they set up the escrow account for me, because now it's like, okay, she's good to go. We can proceed with the surrogacy. Now the only other thing would be to actually get pregnant. So they set up the escrow account, and the escrow account is basically where I get paid from. So I'm not going to go too much into that due to confidentiality, but it's just an account that's set up, and that's where all of your payments will go through. So you don't have to worry about texting the parents or the agency or anyone calling and say, hey, I missed a payment, or hey, this and that, or hey, I need money for this doctor's appointment, or nothing like that. Everything goes straight through the escrow account. I don't really have to do anything but just set it up and put in my bank information. So after the escrow account was set up, now this is where the lawyers get involved. So my lawyer, so basically I have a lawyer and the intended parents have a lawyer. Now I'm not paying for anything during the surrogacy. The intended parents did pay for my lawyer, but I still had to have a separate lawyer. So my lawyer had drafted up the contract for me. I had got an email from my lawyer and with the contract, and I had to read it, go over it, and write down any questions I had, which I did. And y'all, my contract was 49 pages. The rough draft was 49 pages, and I was like, oh my goodness. But it was fine. I read every single page, every single word, and I wrote down, I had about 12 questions that I had wrote down to talk to him about when we discussed it. And it was very thorough, and I appreciate that. You know, obviously this is a serious situation, like I said before. So I took my time. It took me a while because I wanted to make sure I understood everything, and that if something didn't sit right with me, or I didn't, you know, I was confused about it, that I wrote it down and I made sure I was gonna talk to him about it when we had our conversation. So the lawyer had called me. We had a conversation on the phone. He was super chill. He was very appreciative that I actually took the time to read the contract, write down questions, and, you know, show that I actually cared about what I'm about to be signing as well. So we went over everything. He clarified the things I needed clarity on. He went back and double checked things that needed to be double checked. And then they sent me the final draft. So with the final draft, I read it again. It was pretty much the same. It was just a few things that needed to be corrected, or, you know, whatever he and I had discussed. And so that was done. That's when I signed the contract. And then I had to get it notarized and then sent back to the lawyer. So this happened in May. The contracts were signed in May. So at this point, it's been about 7 months from the time I applied to be a surrogate to the time the contracts were finalized and signed. So after the contracts were signed, this is where I go back to the fertility clinic, get more labs done so that I can get cleared to start taking the medication. So I started taking the medication on June 14th, and I'll talk more about that in a separate video, and we can dive all into how I did the medicine, what it's for, and all of that in a separate video. So I did start taking the medicine on June 14th, and then July 1st is when we did the embryo transfer, and you guys already saw that in the previous video. If you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and check it out after this one. I'll leave it linked down below. So after the embryo transfer, I went home, I rested, all of that, which I explained in the last video, and I'm pregnant. As you all can see, I'm pregnant. I am actually 5 months pregnant at the time of this video. So yeah, that's the process of becoming a gestational surrogate. I am just so grateful that I was able to do this. I'm able to be a blessing to someone else, and that things are going well, that baby is here, she's kicking, she's moving, she's active, she's growing, and she's healthy. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here, and if you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you have any comments, leave them down below. I will leave the video about the embryo transfer and all of that linked down below as well, so you can go check that out if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you're notified when I upload again. And I will see y'all in the next video.